Security Scan with me, Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will talk about indigenous helicopters. Now, all three armed forces have their specific requirements for helicopters, and these are being fulfilled by both indigenous products and imports as well. Now, government-to-government deal was signed recently between India and United States of America for 6 Apache attack helicopters for Indian Army. This is in addition to 22 of these choppers being delivered to Indian Air Force as well. Now, India's leading aerospace manufacturer, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, that is HAL, has started the groundwork to develop an indigenous medium-lift helicopter. The project cost for Indian multi-role helicopter or IMRH plan is expected to cross almost 10,000 crore rupees mark, with the first prototype set to be ready by 2023. According to the chairman of HAL, the aim of this project is to stop the import of more than 4 lakh crore worth of helicopters in this category. Now, HAL's product range includes a number of other helicopters as well, such as LCH, Light Combat Helicopter, Multi-Role ALH, that is Advanced Light Helicopter, and Chetak Helicopter as well. So for more on this, about the indigenous helicopters, we joined by a distinguished panel of guests in the studio today. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Retired Major General Ravi Arora, defense expert and editor of Indian Military Review. We also have with us Lieutenant General B.S. Pawar, the President of Northern Region of the Helicopter Society of India. And we are also joined by Mr. Ajay Banerjee, the Defense Correspondent from the Tribune. Let me begin with you, General Ryan. Let's take an overview here of the requirements of the helicopters as far as three armed forces are concerned, how they are being fulfilled, and where do we stand right now?
Before that, before anybody asks what's an infantryman doing here from the army in a discussion on helicopters, let me tell you, give you an example that the Indian Air Force operates attack helicopters which are tasked for combat by the army. So it is any army commander's job to know fully the capabilities of helicopters and how to employ them. Now coming to the requirement of helicopters, right now the Indian Air Force is using approximately 450 helicopters, and they have a requirement of many more in all categories, whether it's utility helicopter, heavy lift, medium lift, and attack or armed helicopters. Similarly, the army is using about 250. They are short of many helicopters that they require because over the years procurement has fallen short. And now there is some traction that helicopters are being acquired, and HAL has come of age and they are producing helicopters like the Advanced Light Helicopter, and many of them are on the drawing board in development phases. Some of them have already been delivered as well. And similarly, the Navy has about 90 helicopters, very short of helicopters in the sense that every ship that the Navy has with a heli deck requires a helicopter, a utility helicopter, and of course they require special role helicopters. So recently when the HAL chairman Mr. Madhavan said that the HAL has the capability to build 10 to 12 ton helicopters and also a helicopter which can replace the Mi-17, now the attention goes toward the Mi-17, which will be replaced by 2032, and HAL today is best placed to provide replacements. Of course, foreign helicopters are also being imported. The requirement is so huge. Let's take the case of utility helicopters, that the KA-226T is going to be manufactured in India, around 187 copies of the helicopter, which will go to the Army and the Air Force. This is an interim arrangement, an immediate arrangement as soon as the contract is signed. And HAL, which already had a LUH in development phase, which has flown and it has got IOC from the Air Force recently, is going to provide the remainder requirement of the helicopters. So HAL is unable to meet the whole requirement, and hence these steps are being taken, whether it is attack helicopters where Apaches have been imported, and this will be followed by the Rudra armed helicopter, the WSI or Weapons Systems Integrated Helicopter, which some of which has been supplied already, and the Light Combat Helicopter. So we are well on our way to develop world-class machines. They may not be as comparable to the tried and tested imported ones, but I think the future looks bright, and the armed forces are going to get their requirements over the 10 to 12 years.
Okay, let's bring in General B.S. Pawar here on this. And General Pawar, apart from moving ahead on what General Arora said, one specific question here is that if you look at the IMRH, something which is a trigger to this discussion which we are having right now, the category, that's the medium lift helicopter. So why is that category so specifically important?
Let me first clarify a few things. The number of helicopters requirement, military, Navy, Air Force and Army is 1,000 plus today. We are short in all the categories like you brought out. But HAL has had the advantage of the first indigenous production which they did under license was of Chetak and Cheetah. Chetak they are still manufacturing, Cheetah has stopped. In fact, they have gone on to a Cheetal, which has got a stronger engine, which is TMM3 with an upgraded transmission system. So HAL capability, thereafter they have switched to on these ones like the LUH, light utility helicopter, 184 of these. The ALH, which is continuing to come in all the three services. Yesterday only when I was speaking to someone in HAL, the Navy has placed another 5 orders. This is for onshore operations because unfortunately the ALH cannot operate on board the ships. It has some problems on the folding of blades and other things. So Air Force has also got, so is the same. Now coming to your, and as far as the ALH is concerned, Army was the first service to induct ALH because there were some problems. And any helicopter the world over, when you induct, they are teething problems for the first 5 to 10 years. The helicopter stabilizes after that. And therefore, the ALH today is one of the most advanced helicopters as far as I am concerned in our country.
Okay.
And it is going to get into export in a big way. Presently, we are doing to very few countries.
Okay.
As far as the IMRH is concerned,
the medium lift category.
Medium lift category is very interesting. I was heading the Army Aviation Corps when this idea was first mooted. A 10 to 12 ton class helicopter. Army showed an interest. Others were not that much. We had a direct dialogue with HAL. But HAL's capability to make this class of helicopter was not there at that time because the ALH was just coming in. So they went on to the foreign vendors for co-joint development. This happened in 2005, I'm talking of. And in fact, the Army started calling it the Tactical Battle Support Helicopter, TBSH, but same 10 to 12 ton class. Anyway, after about a couple of years, when no responses, they could not establish any joint development issues with the other companies like Eurocopter, like Augusta Westland, like Bell. This died as this thing. It came up again for the first time when the mock-up was displayed in the Aero India show in 2017. That time they called it a multi-role helicopter, medium lift, but multi-role helicopter, which means it can form different roles for all three services, Navy, Army and this thing. Now they have come up with this, that we are planning to form this with a joint development. Means it is like with the Make in India now, I'm sure. Because today to make a 10 to 12 ton class helicopter is different ball game from making a 5 ton helicopter like the LH, lift category. And it can be, when you say compare, it needs to be compared with other helicopters. If you remember some time back, there was a trials for VVIP squadron. 101, Augusta Westland 101 and the NH90. These are the two medium lift helicopters in the world which are very, very famous and operating in various forces. So we have to get somewhere, into that category of the IMRH.
Okay.
As far as requirement is concerned, yes, the Mi-17s, even the V5s by 1932 will start phasing out. And therefore, there is a need to have this class of helicopter. Mi-17 is 13 tons. This is 10 to 12 tons. But that doesn't make a difference. 1 ton doesn't make a difference. It's the avionics and other things which you fit on it. We'll need the Air Force will need almost about 300 to 350 to replace this. Army also has been talking of this. That's why I told you, 2005 we started for our special squadrons for squadrons at the level of the commands, for lift higher than a company, up to battalion lift. So the IMRH is a project on which we've been working off and on for the last, but now I believe they are saying that with the prototype in 23 and with the first production clearance by 2028. So I think IMRH is the way forward.
Okay.
All the three services needed.
Okay. So it's the way forward. Ajay, if you look at the aerospace major HAL's journey, starting from Cheetah, Chetak to LCH, LUH, ALH, and now IMRH, which we are talking about. So in terms of deadlines and timelines specifically, as General Pawar also pointed out, and HAL chairman has said that if all approvals are in place, the first prototype would be ready by 2023 and the first product might be rolled out by 2027.
Well, to answer a question, there are multiple questions in Vishal. I'll answer it each one by one. First of all, IMRH, the multi-role helicopter which the HAL has spoken about, 10 to 12 tons, which General Pawar has pointed out. See, what happens is, in case of HAL, when they make this helicopter, they will need the following aspects. They need a foreign engine maker. They have already specified that we possibly have a risk partner. Okay. Risk partner means a person or a company which will join from day one with the project. That means that company gets to reap the benefits. If it goes bad, they face the flak. Now, HAL has already sent out a proposal of 9,600 crores to set up develop a helicopter of that kind to the Ministry of Defence. There is a project proposal already gone. The project is being appraised in the MOD at the moment and will possibly go to the Cabinet Committee on Security for clearance for okaying the project to start making it. Now comes the next point. Who are these partners? See, three of the major aerospace companies, Airbus, Boeing and Lockheed Martin, get the cabins of the helicopters made or stuff made in India for their global supply chains. All three biggest companies get their global supply chain helicopter products made in India. So these three companies could be one of the people interested because some of those companies may not want to shift their production lines here. It takes an effort to shift a production line here or to get products made from here. Now, who could be the possible engine makers? I see three people who could be immediately tie up with HAL. Klimov is the engine of the Mi-17. The Safran engine is used by the ALH. We have a tie-up already with HAL and Safran to make a turbomeca engine for the ALH. And of course, the General Electric. General Electric makes engines for Tejas fighter jet, which is being made for HAL. And incidentally, General Electric is also the engine on the Lockheed Martin MH-60R, which we are buying for the Navy. So General Electric, Safran and the Klimov of Russia could be the three I see immediate risk partners who could join in, and these three are the biggest engine makers in the world or such class of helicopters. Okay. Now coming to the next part, why is it needed? See, this is a natural progression, making such a helicopter. We are making an ALH which is largely successful being used. Yes, the Navy version has some issues with the folding of the blades. Otherwise, largely ALH is successful in its utility role. Now, this is the next step to set a benchmark for the country. Because this multi-role means in the naval version, it will have some aspect of a submarine fighting. In Air Force, it will carry some kind of air-to-air missiles. In Army, it will be a utility, moving troops from valley to valley kind of stuff. It will have multiple roles. And each role will be defined with this helicopter. That is why this is, I see, as a natural progression to the next step of a country's benchmarking as an aerospace power. Vishal?
Okay, so that is the natural next step. But General Arora, if you to look at the entire concept of the IMRH here, and as both the gentlemen are pointing out, its utility would be obviously decided which force has it depending on specific requirements. But that category, the medium lift category which we are talking about, is the most important category right now in terms of all our requirements.
Yes, of course. See, the roles of these helicopters, any utility helicopter, firstly is to transport troops, transport warlike stores, and the medium lift helicopter can carry almost a platoon, whereas the ALH is, and the light utility helicopter carries between 5 to 12 people. So whenever you have to carry out an operation with troops or carry warlike stores close to the front line, these helicopters are required. Now imagine if, say, two companies or a battalion is required to carry out a heliborne operation. You require the troops to be lifted in waves. Something like 24 helicopters flying in one wave, carrying out 4 waves is required to carry out such a heliborne operation. So this is in a way a kind of essential tactical and strategic lift in operations. Anybody who can carry out a heliborne operation, and you may have heard in the cross-border strike, the surgical strike carried out after the Uri attack, some people claim, some people deny it, that helicopters were used to infiltrate the troops which carried out this operation. So this is an essential asset to carry out operation. It's a force multiplier. That is the main role, and secondary roles are many. They are this same medium lift helicopter, HAL is talking about making it an attack helicopter. We have utilized the Mi-8 when we had it to arm it with the rocket pods and machine guns and even missiles. So it's quite possible this helicopter will also be used for being made into an armed helicopter or an attack helicopter. Strictly speaking, an armed helicopter. And it will be able to carry much more armament. A bigger helicopter means much more payload, much more all up weight. So this is as far as the role is concerned, situating the utility helicopter into the requirement. But I would say as definitely the helicopter to replace the Mi-17, which has been a workhorse of the Indian Air Force, we must start working on it as the HAL has proposed now, so that by 2032, they have kept a target of 2027 or 28 to start production. But experience has shown that it takes much longer. If we look at the ALH or any other helicopter that they have taken, it will take much longer. So it's better to start now if you have to replace it with an indigenous system. And indigenous is the way forward, as we are seeing in all types of helicopters which the HAL is now taking up. But my reservations are that look at the ALH. They have converted into an armed helicopter called the Rudra WSI, and based on which the light combat helicopter is also being made for higher altitudes by reducing the weight. But 70% of the content is imported or supplied by foreign companies. The Rudra itself has a French turret gun. It has MBDA French missiles. It has got Belgian rocket pods. Many of these things other than the turret gun have not yet come in. Many of the sensors, whether it is missile sensor or countermeasures or FLIR, they are still under various stages of discussion.
So you're saying complete indigenization is the way forward, and that's what should be the target.
It is, and I hope by the time we get there, we will have a largely indigenous solution, at least more than 50%. Right now, it is not so. Again, the engine, we assemble the Shakti engine for the ALH in India. On the LCH and Rudra, it's the same engine. But for IMRH to have an engine partner means hopefully we will have equal stakes in the development and the production of that engine. So I think we should look at more of indigenization when we take up such projects to be really called a homegrown thing.
Let's come back to the specifics once again, and I'd like to bring in General Pawar here, because you mentioned that it was during your tenure as the head of the Army Aviation Corps that there was this talk about IMRH actually started. From an end user's perspective, General Pawar, what is being talked about in terms of what IMRH will have? And what is it that the end users, like the Army or the Indian Air Force or Indian Navy as well, would want it to be equipped?
See, I'll tell you, that time there were two things going on simultaneously. One was this M777, the gun. In that 2005-2006, this discussion was going on, and we were looking for a suitable helicopter which has got the capability of lifting the M777. Now that we got the Chinooks, I mean, they have the capability to lift it. But one of the things we were looking at is that a light gun should be the helicopter, that IMRH should be able to lift that and take it from one valley to another, which is one of the main problems, especially on our eastern borders with China, where the road infrastructure is very poor. Secondly, like General Arora also brought out, the ALH can carry a section fully equipped, which is 10 men. So if I have to put a company, and in the mountains, if I can able to put a company with 1 unit of ALH operating, that's all I need in the mountains. That company can stop almost a brigade coming onto if the feature is so dominating. IMRH, the biggest problem, and there, whereas the IMRH is concerned, is capable of carrying a platoon. It's like the Mi-17, okay? Mi-17 has been a workhorse, but even the Mi-17, as it flies in high altitude, the number of personnel it can carry reduces.
Comes down.
It is not like the ALH. It is also reduces, but it may be able to carry about 5 or 6 at those altitudes. Therefore, the IMRH, whatever design, whatever help we'll be getting, will not have the same capability. You cannot carry a platoon at those heights. But when I'm fighting the battle in the plains, or I'm fighting in small hills, or I'm fighting in the desert, imagine the IMRH capability to lift up to a battalion. I mean, 1 unit of IMRH can lift a battalion minus and place it wherever it is required to be placed. That was the Army's main criteria when we looked at the IMRH, and we were trying to push it at that time.
Okay.
That is the basic thing. As far as, 2 things I want to just highlight. As far as the engine is concerned, the JV was signed with Safran in 2017 during the Aero India. Today, all your helicopters have got Safran engines. LUH with a Safran, ALH, Safran, Rudra, Safran, LCH, Safran, the Car 226 which you are going to get is Safran. So that is all the engines are from the Safran, that is turbo maker engines. Okay. Shakti is an engine which we, along with turbo maker, is manufacturing, not assembling, manufacturing. And that is the most strongest engine which is making the ALH operate at 19,800 feet and land there.
Okay.
Because of the Shakti engine. The other thing is, when you talk of multi-role, like this one, entire world today, especially the Americans, you can't have, I'll have a ALH, this thing, then I'll have a Rudra, then I'll have another one for something else. It should be capable of changing its role. Therefore, one machine, one design can do various roles, and that reduces the number of type of helicopters you need to operate simultaneously.
Okay.
HAL has the capability, and I am ready to say that because they have learned their lessons while making the ALH. It took a lot of time. We had a lot of teething problems, but they have learned and have stabilized. The ALH is stabilized today. I say it is one of the best helicopters that India has had so far in that category. Okay.
So HAL can do it. But last one from you, Ajay. And I'd like to pick you here on the point which was raised by General Arora in terms of, achieving that complete indigenization. We are at almost 70% here, and in IMRH, it is expected that we might reach 50% aspect, because ultimately the goal is to ensure that we make everything on our own.
Vishal, I'm not worried on the indigenization part. Reason is the following: because other than the Americans and the Europeans collectively and the Russians, nobody makes the entire product on their own. We are nowhere near them. Let us not even compare ourselves. Let us remain where we are. Let us not compare ourselves with the US or the Europeans. And in that case, IMRH will have a foreign engine. Very good. HAL is being very honest that we'll not even wait for us to make an engine. We'll get a foreign partner, risk partner will come and supply the engine, and we'll make the rest of the stuff here. Fair enough. I'm totally game. I agree on that part. It is a very good novel idea by the HAL. Instead of getting bogged down, we'll make our own engine and get bogged down. The engine is not coming up, and then the project is delayed. No, please let us go on. And HAL has done a good job by getting into a kind of thing that they'll have a foreign partner. One, they possibly will have sensors from locally from Bell. Bharat Electronics Limited is a Ministry of Defense PSU. Possibly Bell has tie-ups with other Israeli and French companies, which makes these head-up displays. We already make our own head-up displays. But to get bogged down on an engine, please don't. Let anybody else supply an engine. Nobody else makes the entire stuff. Only the Americans make it. Europeans collectively make it. The Russians make it. We are not there. Let us not even try to compare ourselves.
And then what do you say on the timeline part? Because this is going to replace Mi-17.
It's a long while away, because I also spoke to the HAL chairman in the Defense Expo last month. It's a long while away. 7 years he's been given. I think they can do it in 7 years very easily. It's doable. Because today we have got composites made in India. We have got the cabins being made in India. The technology now is there. We have gone a step ahead in technology what we were 20 years ago when the ALH project started. Today we are one step, two steps, three steps ahead in that technology curve, and I think we can do that.
Okay.
Vishal?
Okay, so there it is. Thank you so much, Ajay, General Pawar and General Arora as well for your views here. As our panelists have pointed out, this is what I am